guess I'm kind of puzzled about you know, the whole dispute you got going on with the plain dealer, the Northeast Ohio media group about, when you entered and left the county building.
Well, I'm assuming that you know that we have the exact same standard that that the Highway Patrol and the governor uses for the governor. It's the exact same standard. And so security for the county is handled by the county sheriff's office. Security for the governor is handled by the Highway Patrol, who handle it for me now too when I travel. And it's the exact same thing. And that is if there's a security issue, at least the way the county handles it, is if there's been threats that have been made against a county employee. It doesn't matter who the county employee is. And somebody then wants to know exactly when that employee is going into a building and what time and what doorway they're going through. Our sheriff has said that's a security concern. We're not going to give out that information. And neither does the Highway Patrol. And neither does the Capitol Police about a congressman. And what I've said to the plain dealer is, if you had an employee who had received death threats, and then you had somebody say, I want to know when that employee is going to get there, and when they're going to leave, and what entrance they go in, and what route they take, it's irresponsible. So we don't do that in our county for county employees that have received threats. So when a request comes into the county, first of all, the State Highway Patrol, the governor's office denies all those things point blank and was sued over it. I mean, the hypocritical thing about the whole thing is the governor's political people started suing me over it at the same time that they were being sued over it for denying the exact same kind of information. I never figured that one out. But I could tell you the way it works in Cuyahoga County is if a request is made for an employee, the governor or our sheriff will check the kind of threat matrix. Let's say it's a county prosecutor like I used to be. If somebody asks for a county prosecutor's whereabouts on a given day, and they want to know when they're checking in and checking out of the building, and they prosecuted people, and there's a security concern there, we're not turning that information over. If they want to know my calendar, my public calendar, we provide that information. We're happy to do that. We're happy to do that. So that's basically it. I mean, the plain dealer had asked for that information for employees where there hadn't been a threat situation. And so then when they asked it for me, we sat down with them and said there had been 8 specific threat situations. And so it's a real concern. It was a concern of my sheriff, and I agreed with him because I'm the person that the threats were made against, and I take it seriously too. And by the way, I never criticized the governor for being careful about his security. I mean, we live in a world where that happens. I mean, we have this situation going on right now with the president's security. We have to be careful about that kind of stuff. And I'm somebody that's been transparent when we talk about how public money is spent. But if somebody wants to say, well, I want to know exactly when this person who has received threats is coming in and out of a building and out of what door, that is not a relevant issue for learning how taxpayer money is spent. I think it's totally different.
Well, but I mean, given the context that in Cuyahoga County there has been a fair amount of corruption, and a lot of that corruption was, collaborated by, when people, were in and out of the parking garage. I think that was the context.
No, not particularly. Actually, we had an enormous corruption scandal where 60 people were eventually convicted, and it had to do with kickbacks.
No, I'm talking about some of the things that had happened over the county courthouse where people said they were working.
Those are hourly employees that said they were. I'm not an hourly employee anyway. And again, but look, if you asked for an hourly employee, if somebody was cheating on their time card, okay, which elected officials don't have. Governor Kasich doesn't clock in and clock out. I don't clock in and clock out. Neither do your legislators or members of Congress. Okay. If there was ever an investigation into if somebody was forging a time card, let's say, then that might be correct. But I can tell you, if a media outlet said, I want to see exactly when somebody's coming in and coming out, and by what route and in what building, and there was a serious threat concern about that information might be redacted or taken out. But in terms of cleaning up corruption, my job as an elected official is to make sure that we run an operation that is as free of corruption or misuse as possible. The information that was requested regarding Governor Kasich's personal schedule would not tell us whether or not he was engaged in corruption or not. The information, and he didn't turn any of it over, and he shouldn't have. And the information that was asked about my personal, was he there at 8:10 or 8:15, and what entrance or what parking lot did he go into, is not going to tell you anything about whether or not we're running an honest operation. What would tell you about whether or not we're running an honest operation is the serious corruption issues that we did have in Cuyahoga County were cleaned up under my leadership, and you don't have to take my word for that. The U.S. Attorney's Office that was in charge of prosecuting those cases publicly praised us for cleaning up that situation because we had the most sweeping ethics reform of any county in Ohio. And how does that compare to Governor Kasich's ethics reforms? There haven't been any. There hasn't been a single proposal that Governor Kasich has made that has made government either more transparent or more open or less prone to fraud and abuse. Not one. It was my first act in office was to sign a very strict code of ethics. The governor, as a matter of fact, not only has he never taken any initiative in the whole area of integrity in government, not once. With all the pay-to-play that's been going on in Columbus, there hasn't been a single, I don't know that he's ever given a speech on the topic. I haven't heard him ever say anything about it. He certainly hasn't said anything about it in the second term. He didn't do anything with the first term. The only thing I can think of that he did was actually urge the legislature to pass a law that would shield Jobs Ohio from Dave Yost doing an audit of it.
We're at the end of our time. Does anybody have one last question they want to throw out? Anything else you want to close?
I don't think so. Thanks for your time.
All right.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.